Charlie, welcome to No Borders Poetry Radio. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. Let's begin with talk about panic. Every aspect of panic. How did you?
Well, it was a very innocent and experimental development. I was born and raised here in New York in the Bronx, and I left in 1988 at the age of 17 to the West Coast for almost 17 years, and then decided to move back in 2006 to be closer to my family and to get involved with other writers and literary artists, etc., just to be around more of that, because where I was, it was really lacking. And when I got back, I started navigating the downtown reading series circuit, and excluding perhaps the Nuyorican, which has had a consistent culture for decades now. I found the reading series that I stumbled upon to be very dry, very boring, very segregated, and that's within not the Latino scene so much, because I found that more uptown and in Brooklyn, but in the new and gentrified downtown New York, and then also in the LGBT world, the gay men's reading series were very adverse to lesbians, and anyway, so I wanted to create an event where all of those elements could come together under the theme of an umbrella, uniting writers from different backgrounds and different disciplines, but requesting them to present material under a theme as an experiment. And so far it's worked. Each year I tweak it. I look back and I think, how can this improve? So beginning next month, we're going into full-time Hispanic panic mode, because it's really starting to catch on in the Latino literary subculture, and we're going to bring some new people into the fold. And there will be a queer Hispanic, a queer Latino Hispanic emphasis, but we're also going to be inclusive of our non-Latino and non-queer allies.
Well, now that you might want to just, while people are thinking about it, tell us where it is in the series that you're currently doing.
Panic happens at the Bar Nowhere. That's in the East Village, 322 East 14th Street on the on the south side of the street, and that's between 1st and 2nd Avenue in New York City.
What time? And
last Wednesday of the month, 8 p.m. And also this month, we're not having a proper reading. We're doing a book party for the new anthology that I've edited based on this series, and we're going to have Puerto Rican. It's going to be kind of a Puerto Rican style holiday party with a short reading, and I have 5 top secret readers whose identities I'm not revealing, because that's kind of that's the fish hook. So, but they're gonna be pretty amazing.
Hint.
No, though one.
Okay, well that covers a lot of ground there. When you began the series, did you talk about, since you just mentioned that you've been tweaking?
Yeah.
All right. When you began the series, what was your like initial emphasis? So the first set of readers.
First set of readers, I had been published, interestingly, in an erotica anthology. That's how I broke into publishing, because as a non-agented writer, and as a relatively unknown writer, you have to start getting published somewhere. So somebody told me, believe it or not, erotica anthologies are always looking for new voices. So I'd been published in, it was called Best Gay Erotica 2008. And interestingly, the editor, or the curator of that collection, lives here in New York City. It's Emmanuel Xavier, a very well-known spoken word artist. And many of the stories that he chose were also written by New Yorkers, just because of who he is, because they submit the stories to him without names. So he picks them solely based on aesthetics and whatever grabs his attention. So there was a reading for that at the Rapture Cafe, and then I started my reading series with two of the writers also included in that book, and then a friend of mine who's a musician, Pietro Scorsone. We just set up a microphone in the bar during a Pride week and just kind of checked it out, and people came, and that's where we started. It started kind of as an erotica reading, but I wanted it to be more than that as it caught on, and as I started meeting new writers, as I was going and exploring other reading series, bringing in different energies to create the panic aesthetic, which is kind of very resistant and irreverent and raw and honest. But that took a couple years. It wasn't exactly like that at first.
Mm-hmm. No, that's what. Yeah, because if you, I think that if you hang out with a series long enough, as you grow, as you begin to expand your own, and begin to meet people who are perhaps oftentimes a little bit beyond what you may have imagined or expected.
Yeah. That's happened. That's happened. There's been people who read once and probably won't come back.
Two things. The first back cover blurb I ever got was on Manny's book, his first book, Peer Queen.
Oh yes. Yeah.
That was the first.
Oh, how funny! Okay. How funny! It's a small world.
Because when Manny, like a lot of people, when Manny came out of wherever he came out of, he jumped into the New Eureka. That's where. I saw his his cherry pop at the New Eureka, and at the time. He went on to get into that, because what we were doing at the New Eureka was at least what I was doing, what I attempted to do when I was doing readings there. The thing that I thought all along was that we should have if I have 5 poets in the 5 features, one of those kinds of readings. They would be 5 as different people as I could put together.
I love that. I try to do the same thing.
And in large measure because as you mentioned, the poetry world has it's balkanized. Along ethnic, race, even class lines, and all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
And I thought that as artists, we have to we have to confront one another with our realities, and that was the whole point there. And especially when like you're doing a reading, and as you mentioned that is keyed around the subculture, a lot of people, and sometimes that as I said, as it expands, I think that what happens is, as you mentioned, non-queer allies and non-Latino allies, and that's where I think that you begin to create the opportunity for that confrontation of artists.
Absolutely.
To come together and all spill out our realities and start chipping away at the.
There were some people that had read in the Panic series several times when I announced in. November, just last month, I announced what I was going to be doing with the series beginning in January 2011, who were very upset that I was going to reformat it under a queer Latino emphasis, and they didn't. Of course, they were non-Latino, and they were just like, how could he do that? How could he do that? He's ghettoizing the reading series, and I don't see it that way at all. I think I'm specializing it. I'm prioritizing it. But what really happened there was that they felt it was almost as if they were dreading being the only non-Latino guest.
Okay.
Like we were gonna kill and roast them and eat them after the reading series was done. But I told one of them, I said, being the odd guy out is good. For writers, it's really good. I've been asked to read at feminist events. I curated an all-queer black Panic 2 Pride seasons ago that I read, and a lot of the writers I had never met before. I had just they've been recommended to me. So and I can't think of how many readings I've read at non-Latino, non-queer specific readings. You know, you just go and read when you're invited and feel that you have something to experience. So